Swedish Terapeut here. It's been a long time. It's August 13th, Friday, August 13th. And I haven't posted in a long time. But You Deserve to Know, episode W, is more in line with how I began You Deserve to Know. So that all started with my mom. And the whole reason I'm doing this is to share some ideas. So, together, dear young people and common folk, we can think in a different direction and perhaps do things a little bit differently so we don't end up in the same spot that my mom is in. Yeah, I know. It's early morning on a Friday, the 13th, and I have my coffee and I woke up with these ideas floating through my head and I had to get them out because I deviated quite a bit on this last few episodes in the fact that it didn't include a lot about my mom, but it was more about nature and it was more about the body and I really want to drive the point home that there's this Vätska, there's this wetness. So this episode that's W, we're going to talk about wetness, which is really important for the insides. Not unlike a battery with a car or a battery for like a double A battery, triple A battery, those D batteries, those cells needed to have wetness in order to conduct electricity. And the same reason that we don't stand outside in a puddle of water when there's a storm outside with lightning, that same reason that we don't stand in that puddle of water is because it attracts electricity. So our wetness is crucial inside our body. And as you and I have we have all talked about, drying out is something when that happens, the system doesn't function the same way. The wetness is absolutely critical. In a way, the wetness is our wireless communication. Along with movement, and Chinese medicine has wind, but I want to introduce you to a new idea, thinking a different direction about wind. So think of a tree, and the higher it is, the more the branches will move with the wind. And on a windy day, those branches catch the wind, and the whole trunk, the whole tree benefits from the movement of a few of those leaves because it's moving fluid throughout the trunk, all the way from the shoots to the roots. And the roots now are what we're going to talk about because that mycelium network, Paul Stamets and some other individuals have done a lot of investigation about mushrooms, and maybe you've seen Fantastic Fungi, a brilliant movie. But mushrooms are just the fruit of the mycelium, which is a whole network underneath the ground that we can't see, that we walk on every day. And when a tree is moving in the wind, everything that happens up here affects the trunk and moves the fluid up and down the trunk and also helps the mycelial network communicate. What does this do for our body? I know. I'm still working on a lot of factors, but when I foam roll, and I don't mean laying on a foam roller and rolling myself out, ironing myself like a shirt, like Sue Hitzman would say. It's when I foam roll on a melt roller that's soft, and I did that yesterday with my friend Osa. It's a physical change on how I feel, but there's an emotional and a cognitive change that follows that physical change. And this is the most important part of You Deserve to Know, because Swedish therapist says we can do things in a different direction. We can think in a different direction. And it doesn't have to be hours at a time. It's just a few minutes of having a physical, mechanical pressure on our body, which sends different signals throughout our system that help the emotional and the thinking mind balance. Lagom, and we've talked about Lagom here at You Deserve to Know with Swedish Terapeut. So, we've talked about wetness, we've talked about wind and the wireless communication. There's one other thing, and this is where things get tricky because I have a hard time talking about it. It's this waxy, fatty substance that we have throughout our whole body. It's the cholesterol, it's the sebum, it's the oiliness that our skin has. And there's something called hyaluronan. It's in our body, and babies have it in explosive numbers. And if you've ever felt a baby, they're soft. They're it doesn't yeah, they're soft and they're gooey and they're gushy and they just feel fluffy. They have so much hyaluronan and it's grabbing whatever wetness it can. And it's not the wetness that they take in through their mouth, it's their whole body. And it's communicating and it's using that wetness to help develop that baby into a small child, into a teenager, an adolescent, into a young adult, into a medium sized adult, into an older individual. That wetness is critical. And when medicine came in and gave my mom all sorts of medicines that helped dry out her system, things changed. And my mom, who went to her doctor and said, I have pain, and they said, oh, maybe a surgery is in order. The key is my mom's body healed because it's designed to seal up together and say and heal itself. That's its design. It's great. But when this happens, the communication is stopped inside. And that physical, that emotional, and that cognitive had a disconnect. It blurred. And last time on You Deserve to Know, we talked about how things blend and all the humoral factors that are put together in Vätska, how they blend, and it's nice because then we have the physical and the emotional and the cognitive all working together and synchronizing and coupling and in training so that the whole individual, an organism, is functioning well. But you take one of the physical aspects and you take away the wetness, then the emotional and the cognitive become disconnected. And this is the most important part of You Deserve to Know because we can have control over this using different tools that are available through individuals in the market, and I've talked about these individuals. And unfortunately, if I try to do a list of it, it won't work. But there's in Britain, there's Evolve Movement. There's Julian Baker with his functional anatomy. In Germany, there's Eric Franklin, who's been around for 30 plus years doing his work with balls and imagery. There's Sue Hitzman in the United States. There's Jill Miller. Oh, and unfortunately, I can't go through the long list in the United States, but those two women have done so much to help people. So when we take the physical and we help regulate it through mechanical pressure, when we help it come back into Lagom, when the physical feels safe, the emotional feels safe, the cognitive follows, and thinking starts, and our creativity and our curiosity is created. And this is part of that pyramid that we saw in one of the episodes of You Deserve to Know. And it's the learning pyramid. And on the bottom is tactile or touch. And it's the Grundlag, it's the foundation of how we learn, all the way up to the top with cognition. And this fascial net, these collagen fibers, these threads throughout our body need the hyaluronin. They need the wetness. They need the individual to stop for a little bit and take care of the most important part, self. Because when we feel better, we can take care of others. We can make better decisions. We can take care of the earth. And this is a huge circle and a huge cycle. And I don't want to get woo-woo or sounding a little bit hokey. But it's important when we take care of ourselves, we can take better care of others. So I wish you a good day. If you want to get into some of the reading that I've been doing and still haven't come up with ideas of how things work, Tuning into Nature by Philip Callahan. This is from 1975, and he talks all about how insects rub and groom their antennas and their sensory organs, and that mechanical pressure is helping to amplify all these signals on a very micro miniature scale. And then that translates to the whole organism, being able to feel and sense, and then they make better decisions. And our bodies aren't different. We're nature. And then there's this great book here that I've been diving into. And we can see all sorts of things about fluid and flow, and how fluid in fascia is important to us as an individual. It gets a little technical, but it's still interesting reading for manual therapists, because this is what we do. We apply pressure and then we release. We apply pressure and release. Not everybody can afford to go to a massage therapist or a body worker or an osteopath or a naturopath. It's a little bit different than stretching, but you can go out there and you can get a tool. And with Eric Franklin or the Evolve movement or Melt method or Jill Miller's tune-up balls, you can do it yourself. And this is the most important thing, because my mom is a wonderful woman and super smart, and she raised 2 children. And now at 81, it's hard for her to get out of a chair. It's hard for her to walk. It's even more difficult for her to make a decision and to cognate or think. And I don't want that for you or your loved one. So at this point, you deserve to know. Let's think in a different direction and take care of ourselves. That's it for today. Tack så hemskt mycket för kom hit. I'm gonna have some more coffee. Hej då.